Peter. All right. Welcome, everyone, to the Wednesday night oasis here at the Oakland Center for Spiritual Living. We are so glad that you are joining us here this evening. I'm going to turn on my light, which I forgot to do. My name is Reverend Sally Bartholomew, and I am a licensed minister at the Centers for Spiritual Living, and I happen to be the secretary of the board at the Oakland Center. I'm very happy to welcome you here this evening. As you will get to experience tonight, Wednesday Night Oasis is a place where we come together as a community to be spiritually refreshed and uplifted between Sundays. Most Wednesday night services build upon the theme of the previous Sunday, sharing in what we call a satsang style, building off the science of mind principles and practices, with the intention that these gatherings be informal, intimate, and very interactive. And this evening, we are in for a treat. Last Sunday, Reverend Catherine Sachs introduced the ideas inspired by the talk title of Vulnerability, Defining and Aligning. And tonight, practitioner Christopher Brown continues the exploration of this same topic in his own unique way. Annual theme this year, 2023, is Living Out Loud. And our monthly theme, as I said, this is now April, and the theme of the month is the power of vulnerability. This month is also abundant with religious rituals, celebrations, and history. And we have a slide that we'll share during the announcements, but we're experiencing Ramadan right now. We start Passover this evening. Easter's right around the corner this Sunday. All of this happening in April. And in addition, did you know that this is Arab American Heritage Month? A lot to talk about. So I encourage you to check out our Village News for some links to learn more about all of this information and our patriarchal origins of all of these events. Now, if you are new here to the Wednesday night service, I want to welcome you. We are glad you're here. And if you are new, I encourage you to navigate yourself back to the website, because you probably got there to get here, www.oaklandcsl.org. Click on the I'm New icon, and you'll be given an opportunity to provide your email address so that we can share with you the Village newsletter. This comes out once a week, and you'll get the information about all that's happening at the center. So a couple of housekeeping notes before I bring on our speaker. We ask that you mute your audio, and that helps our recording in Zoom. It's okay if you leave your cameras on or off, but muting your audio is really important. And if we feel that you're not muting your audio and it's interfering, the tech team in the back will mute you. All right. Stay tuned all the way to the end of the service for special and important announcements. But right now, I am very happy to introduce our speaker this evening. He's no stranger to Wednesday nights. He is Christopher Brown, a practitioner serving at the Oakland Center, and he also serves on our facilities team at the center. He is our speaker tonight, and he will be opening up the session with prayer. Christopher?
Oh boy. So we're talking about vulnerability, and prayer actually can be a very vulnerable place. So because we're actually opening ourselves, we're taking down our armor. So let's start by taking a breath together, and as we do so, simply arriving at where we are right now. This sacred place that knows no distinction. This place of silence that was here before it was looked for. Everything that is this moment. And I can call this moment the beloved. And so I speak from this space, honoring everyone who will be talking and the partners that will be interacting, all interacting in the space of heartfulness. I bless everything that occurs, all for our highest good, knowing that this is an opportunity to transform old stories into new possibilities. For this and so much more, I am grateful as we begin our journey of exploration this evening and right now by simply saying, blessed be, and so it is. So vulnerability. We can look to dictionaries, but feel what it's like when you feel vulnerable. I don't like the feeling. I run from it. I want to hide from it. As a little kid, I didn't want to stand out. I didn't want to be called on in class because I could make a mistake. And so if I were to define what vulnerability is for me, it's that scary, uncomfortable feeling when I feel that I'm exposed, that I could be ridiculed, I could be attacked, I could be told I'm a bad boy or shamed in some way. And when we think about what scares us, what really scares us the most, you'd think it might be death. But the number one thing that we're so afraid of is public speaking. Because we're vulnerable. And in that vulnerability, boy, we hide from it. And we hide, and when we hide and when we armor up, we miss the opportunity. How do you hug somebody with armor on? It's hard to feel them because you're banging metal to metal. So unless you take your armor off, you'll never feel the heart. Yes, you can engage with the mind, and that can be a very beautiful thing, but it's not the same as the heart. It's not that full-bodied experience. So what are we afraid of? We're afraid of that little thought inside that's just quiet, but it always seems to be there, at least for me. I'm probably the only one. And that's that somehow I'm deficient, that I don't quite measure up, that I'm not quite good enough, and I don't want anybody else to see that. So I hide it really from myself, and I try to hide it from everybody else. And so I walk around looking for danger, in a way, looking for ways to avoid being exposed. And it takes energy to avoid being exposed because everything kind of looks like it could be scary. It could be a possibility. I could be attacked. I could be attacked for my beliefs tonight. So in order not to be attacked and in order to hide, we kind of fall into being a sheep, run by the wolf, afraid of being exposed. So we're not really living our life, we're living in fear of being exposed by other people. So other people, in a way, are living us because we've given our power away to other people. So what would it be like to return, to pull back our power, to not be beholden to other people's good opinions of us? Wow, what would that be like? So I know we want to put our best foot forward. I mean, of course, I combed my hair before I came on camera. There's a whole cosmetic industry. There's weight gain. I mean, there's all kinds of industries to make us look really fantastic. But unless we start feeling fantastic about ourselves the way we are on the inside, we'll never be fantastic on the outside. Because that beauty really starts from within. And I so appreciate Sunshine, Reverend Sunshine, for the fact that she's bringing, an okayness to sparkle. She's giving us permission to sparkle, which is a pretty high bar. Because what would it be like to sparkle? Well, you'll be ridiculed, of course. Oh, you can't wear that, honey. That isn't you. No, that's not you. And perhaps your whole family will tell you that. Oh, honey, you can't do this, you can't do that. And these are childhood stories that are still with us. What would it be like to maybe examine some of those stories? And we'll get an opportunity tonight just to take a peek at them, because chances are a little bit of that story is still with us, or a lot of that story is still with us and running us today. Helen Keller said, life is either a grand adventure or it's nothing. Unless you dare greatly, maybe we're missing something by living. I'm not saying we're all living like sheep, but I have certainly lived like a sheep. Now I choose to live like a badger. I love badgers because they're fearless. And I'm not exactly fearless, but I'm trying to live up to the heart of a badger. That badgers, as they say, are the most fearless animal on the planet. They just go for it. So, one of the Teddy Roosevelt's speech in 1910 called the Man in the Arena speech. This is his most famous speech, and I really, really love it. I've used it many, many times. And I use it as my touchstone. It goes like this. It is not the critic who counts. It's not the man who points out how the strong man stumbled. The credit belongs to the man or woman who's actually in the arena, whose face is marred in dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, striving valiantly, but who comes up short time and time again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming, but who does actually strive to do good deeds, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, or at the worst, if he fails or she fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that her place shall never be with those who are cold and timid, who have neither known victory nor defeat. And what I love about that quote, what I love about his insights, is that unless we engage in life, unless we sparkle in life, we'll really never know the richness. We'll be living in black and white. Color takes courage. Color takes a full engagement. And that's scary because you will be ridiculed. You may cause rifts in your community. You may be ostracized. And then again, you may be welcomed beautifully in a way that you've never known before. We don't know, but do we dare greatly to find out? Or do we continue to wait to a better time? What about now? What about this evening? For me, my vulnerability and how I know this subject so well is that I was never diagnosed dyslexic. They didn't know what that was back then. And by the age of 3, excuse me, at the third grade, I wasn't reading. It was becoming very obvious. And by the fourth grade, I mean, in grade 3, I was hiding behind Bobby in the back of the class. And so when the teacher would look to call on people to read, I would be hiding, down so she couldn't call on me. And it was terrifying because if she called on me, I couldn't do it. And at night, I would practice certain sections in the reader, and I would raise my hand when it came to that section because I had already prepared that section and had practically memorized it. You see, I could read, but I couldn't read like the other kids. And it was very distressing and humiliating, and I felt deficient. And so life for me was avoiding reading at all costs, and it was running me. And that's what being vulnerable actually does. If I were to address and say, hey, I can't do this, you're going to have to cut me some slack. I'm addressing it full on. I free myself from having to pretend otherwise. But actually coming out and sharing something very vulnerable like that is very scary. It's kind of like entering in cold water, like a cold water stream in the mountains. For me, I just don't dive in. Other people do. I mean, they're badgers. But I enter into it very slowly till I get accustomed with it. And so when I open my heart, I don't open my heart in the marketplace. I open my heart up to people who are worthy of my story, worthy of my heart. Don't throw my pearls before swines. They'll just eat them. But you see that you pick the times to be vulnerable. That's entering the stream slowly until you build up enough self-confidence, self-worth that you can actually be vulnerable because there's nothing left to hide. You've moved from a sheep to a badger. And maybe that's not for everybody, but I'm finding it is amazingly liberating not to continue to hide, to actually sparkle. Robin Rice, I believe, is on this talk tonight. And she talked to me, she told me, she said, this year, I just started saying yes to people who invited me to speak. Before I wasn't doing that, but this year I was, whatever it is, I'm going to say yes. That's being a badger. That's entering the arena. That's taking it on and not knowing what the outcome is. That would kind of spoil it anyway. So we're going to start with an exercise now. Before Peter breaks us out, we're going to talk a little bit about what this exercise is. And then Peter's going to break you out into a pair. And you and your wonderful partner, and there's only wonderful partners on this whole program this evening. You're going to be talking about what is the story right now that you're telling yourself. For me, it was I couldn't read, and it was really holding me. It had me. Some of the stories are I'm too old. I'm not good enough. I don't have any dreams anymore. I don't have any talent. I could never do something like that. These are the stories how we champion our deficiencies. So you're going to be invited with a wonderful partner to simply speak, what are some of the stories that really keep you from going deeper into yourself? What are the stories that are your armor so that that it's kind of difficult to meet other people in a very open, honest way? These are those stories that interfere. See if you can find one. I'm probably the only one that has these stories, but if you happen to have one of those stories, would you be willing to share it with a partner? And I know if you were to share with your partner a story, they will feel your vulnerability, your heartfulness, which will give them permission to be open and available also. You see how that works? It takes one to open the space. Once the space is open, it's easy to move into an open, clean space. You got the idea? What are some of the stories or story that keeps you from entering the arena, from really engaging in life? Okay, Peter, if you'll break us out for 10 minutes, enjoy your partner.
Okay, great. Enjoy.
Huh.
Okay.
There we go. Looks like everyone got in their rooms.
Everybody got in a room. Yeah. Yeah.
Worked wonderfully.
I like that automatic process.
Yeah.
Especially with the timer.
Right.
So do you guys usually do the activities?
Sometimes.
Yeah, for the breakout rooms, I usually don't unless I have to. I usually don't.
Cool.
How about you, Reverend Sally?
It's hit and miss. Sometimes I do the activities.
Yeah.
And sometimes I appreciate not going in.
Yeah, you're not in because you're the host, I think.
Yeah, I saw that and I'm cool with that.
Right.
And I'm thinking about his question, what are the
Yeah.
what are the ways I champion my deficiencies? I like the way he said that.
Champion deficiency.
Yeah.
And it's easy to do the big, just rattle off the big three. I think we'll call them the big three. Not good enough, not skilled enough. I guess that's kind of like not good enough, not good enough.
Yeah.
Nobody likes me. What's the third one? My introverted self doesn't want to do it.
Yeah. I hear that.
And I thank God for religious science and all the ways that it gives me the other message that that's not always true.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like friends and family help me sort of get out of my shell, my reluctance. Yeah. And people at Oakland Center have done that with classes and things. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, I was very grateful for finding Oakland Center and the fact that religious science is so education based and, doing your work,
Right, right.
classes and workshops and ways to do it with others.
And it's so practical. It makes sense. Yeah.
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 It's actually a lot more approachable. Ernest Holmes was probably, I don't know, I didn't know him obviously, but he was a philosopher and he thought very deeply, a very, very bright person. But sometimes he didn't seem to have that common touch to relate to people in a, I don't know, a more street vernacular or just a common language. Other people have done a good job of interpreting, or rephrasing his brilliant insights
Yeah.
to more easily digestible and more easily understandable
Yeah.
parts. Yeah.
I think sometimes he took elocution classes, and you can tell because he presents the way that he was taught to present.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Oh, it's a
Yeah.
different era too. So, I mean,
Yeah, and a lot of the stuff that we have now was a speech, and so it really wasn't. It was written for like a huge group of people, and so it's kind of hard to relate sometimes to that kind of a presentation, for
Yeah.
me anyway. Yeah.
Yeah, no
Yeah.
give and take to it, huh?
Yeah.
I like the give and take. I think that's what I love, absolutely love about Dr. Dan,
Dr. Dan, yeah.
and
Yeah.
then the movie group too. It's that give and take that, oh, I
Right.
didn't think that way. Oh, I see what you mean,
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
because I certainly don't know it all. And I haven't experienced all that someone else has experienced. So,
Right. Yeah, everyone has their own insights. And yeah, as a small group, it's easier to share. Yeah.
Yeah. Or just listen when people are sharing, it's,
Right.
yeah.
mhm. I think most of my first classes at the center, I did more listening than I ever did talking.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I thought, how do these people know all this stuff? There's my vulnerability. I knew nothing.
Uh,
And I've always loved being a student. So I think it gives me a propensity towards listening instead of speaking.
Yeah. Alice, I had to group up a third person in one of the groups because there's an even number of people, not counting Sally.
Uh-huh.
Would you be willing to go into a group for the next breakout? So there's only two in each in a room.
I'd rather not.
Okay. Okay. Okay, coming down to the last half minute or so.
Oh, I guess we've been recording, huh?
Oh, God, yeah, I forgot to.
Christopher.
Unmute yourself, Christopher.
Oh, boy, everybody's back. Hi, have you thanked your wonderful partner for their
I am
intimacy?
now. Thank you, wonderful partner.
Thank you, wonderful
Thank you,
partner.
wonderful partners.
Thank you, Freya.
Mhm.
Okay. I'd love to hear from a few people if you feel vulnerable enough to actually share what story arose for you to take a look at. And in the looking at it and examining it, did it make it a little lighter? And by sharing it, did it make it a little lighter? And who would like to share with all of us? And I know your story will be very similar to everyone else's.
Maureen's got her hand up, Christopher.
Oh, Maureen. Unmute yourself. Yes.
Hi.
Hi.
So I don't know, it was a Wednesday night a while ago or some event I was at. Maybe it was the diversity. And I said, I love vulnerability. And it's true. I think if we were to not be so like you were saying earlier in your, like as people grow, they're closed up and closed off. And if we were to just be our authentic selves, everything would be great, right? So for me, what came up is I'm not enough. And and the way my group responded was, yeah, that's, it's a pervasive one, I guess you'd call it, right? And so it just speaks to kind of what you were talking about, the learning that we experience from our experiences in the world. Anyway, so I'm not enough. How can I be the one to be in that, be there, or don't get too important, don't be too important, or remember you're replaceable, things like that. So yeah, but it was really healing, I guess would be the word, to hear from my fellow. I had two people in my group, Grady and Vicky, and they were wonderful. And it was good. It was soothing to hear that they had similar experiences, right? So it was a wonderful experience. Thank you.
Yes, beautiful. It's so good to be validated that, I'm not alone in my sense of deficiency, that we all have these senses. And once we start talking about it, we go, oh yeah, you too? Yeah, me too. It's like, oh, okay. And all of a sudden there's permission now to have these, quote, what we call flaws. They're not really flaws. That's just another story, the way of describing them. Actually describing what actually is. So thank you, Maureen. Who else would like to share? I can't see all the hands, so
You with
just-
it? Yeah.
unmute yourself and begin speaking.
Joan, go ahead.
So my partner was Constance, and we had definitely some things in common. For instance, growing up to be told you're supposed to be seen and not heard, and being very shy. I know I got to a certain age where I felt like I found my voice, and was comfortable, I think because of, spiritual growth and coming from like my authentic self, that I could speak up whenever I wanted to about anything I wanted to. And it was great. And I figured, if somebody doesn't understand me, there's a miscommunication, if it doesn't seem to be going smoothly, hey, I could go back and forth until everything's all smooth and cool. And so I also shared that if I seem silly, I don't care. Because that's me. I just don't care. Again, if I'm misunderstood, I care about that. But it's very freeing, and talking with the people in the line at the grocery store or the grocery checker or anybody. I'm loving it. So
That's your sparkle.
I think so.
That's your sparkle. Your
It's my
sparkle.
hope.
Yeah, I see it. I see it.
Oh,
Oh, thank you.
thanks.
Who else? Aha, Freya.
So mine boils down to feeling like I am wrong. Wrong. My dad and my parents were conservative religiously, and there was a right way and a wrong way. So I thought I must be wrong because I'm not thinking the way they are. And my mother also, that was mostly, well, my mother also said, if you do not have anything nice to say, do not say anything at all. So it's like every time I open my mouth, I have to monitor and edit, and by that time, the discussion's moved along, I missed my chance. So
Thank you. Well, we're going to move on to our next exercise. And that is dealing with what are the first and the second step, the very first and the second step that you could actually take that would challenge your story so that you could actually enter the arena, win or lose, but you could enter the arena. You won't know what the outcome is, but you will be entering the arena. So the question is, and Peter, let's hold it to 6 minutes this time. So the question again is, what would be the very first step, and maybe what would be the next step you could take so that you could challenge your story and enter the arena? Okay, Peter, if you could take us away.
Okay. Adios. Good. Yay. It worked again.
It worked.
Well done. Nice to have somebody expert at that.
Yes. Yeah, you're doing a really good job, Peter.
Thanks. I could really relate to what Freya said. Wasn't that her said her parents
Yeah.
had rules? I grew up with a sister and a mother who were very outspoken. And I sort of faded into the background. And my dad was kind of a little more reticent too. So that's something I do have to, that I struggle with. Not so much, I mean, actually, when I'm out and I don't know somebody, I'm a little more open, like in a grocery store or somewhere. It's when I know people that I care whether I'm saying the right thing or I'm coming across, I don't know, the way I want to be, which is, in a positive way. I judge myself with people that I'm closer to than outright strangers who I don't know, because they don't know who I am. So there isn't any expectation for me of pleasing them. I think that's what it is I want to please other people or somehow be thought of as, well, okay, he has something. I just did.
Okay, where did I go?
You were hanging with me and I took all the time and now I want to talk with you. on a
We will
personal
talk.
level. We
Yeah,
will
you
talk.
Talk later.
Missing.
Okay. Hopefully you got to a point where you have a game plan. And that game plan is that 1 or 2 steps. It's like building a house. It's impossible to build a house in 1 or 2 steps. There are thousands, tens of thousands of steps it takes to build a house. It's the same with changing patterns. It's the same to opening up to life and really learning how to sparkle. But it starts with the first step. And hopefully, in our stepping forward into the arena of life, which is the unknown, win or lose, where our self-esteem comes from and where our growth comes from is when we enter the arena and we are vulnerable and we're unprotected. Should we choose to do that? The benefits are is it frees up energy. It really frees up energy. Because you're no longer looking over your shoulder and you're no longer beholden to other people's good ideas of you. And you're not having to live up to those good expectations. That you're free to be your sparkly self. You're free to be depressed when you want to be depressed or when depression is there. And you're free to be in between or indifferent. You're free to be a badger in a way. Entering the arena and learning how to navigate the arena is where we transform ourselves from sheep into badgers or into lions or into whatever animal, spirit animal that you enjoy. So I guess what I want to say is that the story, our story about ourselves, the story that is repeated from our childhood, is a story that can be not only explored, but it can be transmuted. And the way we transmute that is through action, by actually engaging with somebody. And there are people in your life that are worthy of your vulnerability and your love and your story, that you could actually share your story with them and they would be receptive to it. There are those special people in your life. The question is, do you have enough courage at this point to take that first and then the second step? The first step builds, it breaks the pattern because you're starting towards something. The second step is actually building the momentum that one needs to continue into the arena. And lastly, I want to leave you with what Brené Brown says all the time, is that vulnerability is not weakness. It's actually strength in disguise. It takes amazing courage to be who you are, with our graciousness, with our pettiness, with our anxiety, with our deep love, with our dreams, all of it. And so let us celebrate exactly who we are, knowing that we can sparkle even greater, and it starts with that first step. Thank you for being here with us this evening, and I'm going to turn this back over to Sally.
Thank you, Christopher. Excuse me. Thank you, Christopher. What a wonderful talk. Everyone, please share your love with Christopher. Wave, clap. Let him know that this was a fabulous, fabulous talk, and the exercises taking us in to actually exploring vulnerability. What a fabulous way to do it. Thank you so much. All right, Peter, if we've got some announcements that we are happy to share with you. All right, we've got the slides up and are ready to go with the announcements. As we said earlier on, this month of April, we have got a lot going on. Happy Easter, happy Ramadan, happy Passover, happy Arab American History Month. And we can move on to the next slide there. Next Sunday, which is Easter Sunday, our Reverend Sunshine Michelle Coleman will be speaking on vulnerability, cracks, and canyons. The meditation starts at 9 a.m. and service is at 10:30 a.m. And you can meet us in the sanctuary at the center or via YouTube. Don't know about Facebook. Next week, April 5th, not April 5th, April 12th, practitioner Regina Buckwalter will follow up from Sunday and continue the discussion on vulnerability, cracks, and canyons. Meditation is at 6:30 p.m. and service is at 7 p.m. on Zoom. We hope to see you here. Now, the bookstore is filled with new merchandise. We invite you to check it out, knowing that for the month of April, the bookstore is featuring the book, The Power of Vulnerability by who else but Brene Brown. And we are celebrating Earth Day with all gemstones and Tree of Life items 30% off. And also for the bookstore, are you spring cleaning? If you are, you get an opportunity to donate your used spiritual exploration and personal growth books to the bookstore. And then they'll be put in either the bookstore library or a make an offer cart to share with others in the community. And you can get a donation receipt available upon request for your donations. All right, the next slide is Earth Day. April 22nd is Earth Day, and the Loving Stewards of Mother Earth Ministry are inviting you to join them on Saturday, April 15th, with a rain date of April 22nd from 10 to 12 at the Arrowhead Marsh Garriston staging area. And we're going to be doing a cleanup and some bird watching and just enjoying fellowship in nature. We invite you to check the Village News and the events page for more details. And our next slide. This is our contact team. These are the go-to people at the center. If you have any requests for information, you can find this information here on this slide, and you can also find it out on our website. So as always, for any information on what's going on at the Oakland Center, we invite you to visit our website and, I'll say it again, sign up for our weekly newsletter, the Thursday Village News. And you can remember also to follow us and like us on Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook, because you do get some special announcements and posts that you'll find only on those locations. All right, that's all the announcements for this evening. And now we get to move into our giving time. This is our time of taking our treasures in the form of finances, putting them to our heart, and donating them to the center. The center does need funds to be able to operate and run on. So this is our opportunity to give to that effort. All right, let's say our giving affirmation together.
This gift I give is God in action.
It
It
does
does
Good
the work.
in the world and blesses everyone, blesses creation.
All right, thank you, everyone. It's nice to hear the other voices for a change. So how can you give to the center? Well, there are at least 5 ways. Navigate yourself to that website, www.oaklandcsl.org. Look for the donate icon, click on it, and then you're given an opportunity to use your credit card. You can mail it in by snail mail. You can use Zelle. You can text, or you can come to the Sunday service and put your donation in that offering basket on Sunday. So that's it for the announcements this evening. What I want to do now is say a giant thank you to everyone who made this Wednesday night service possible, especially the tech team in the back, Peter Gum and Alice, Constance Chapman, myself. And I also want to thank our speaker, Christopher Brown, and our meditation speaker, Susan Urquhart Brown. What a wonderful evening this has been, and it wouldn't have been possible if all of you weren't here sharing it with us as well. And so now I'm going to turn it over to Christopher to pray us out for the evening. And you are welcome to hang on afterwards to say hey to each other before we close out the Zoom meeting. Christopher.
Yes, so taking the companionship, the fellowship that we've experienced right now, and just take it in with the next breath. And again, arriving here at the sacredness of the body that's breathing, the body that's listening to these words, as we simply drop into this moment that is always complete, always in touch with the silence and the power of the beloved. And from this place, I simply am grateful for this time together, for what was exposed and learned, and what was made vulnerable through this evening. And noticing how beautiful it is for you to simply relax into what you already know about yourself, how fabulous you are, and knowing that as you enter the arena each time, you become more self-knowledgeable. You have greater self-esteem. You're more accepting of yourself, and you're more loving towards yourself and others. And so this evening is a doorway that you pass through into a new arena of exploring and being with life. And so I claim that for everyone this evening, as this talk and the information that you've discovered this evening will go out and multiply and bless the entire planet. For this and the more, I am so grateful as we simply let it be now by saying, and so it is.
And so it is.